Sudian Group is one of the largest companies in the world. It basically controls the economy of Korea. This insane company that is worth trillions of dollars is run by a single family. They are basically royalty all around Korea. Our main character is called Yoon Hyunwoo, and he is the opposite of that glamorous life. A simple boy who grew up in the countryside. Still, his entire family celebrates when he gets a job as a janitor in the Sudian Group. Still, Yoon has bigger dreams than just being a cleaning boy. He wants to learn and become a rich businessman. Yoon starts working as a janitor and is pretty horrible. Rich members of the Sudian Group love to torture and beat up those in the lower class. Still, Yoon is determined and continues to study for hours and hours on end. Yoon never stops working hard, and finally he becomes a full-time worker in the offices of the Sudian Group. 13 years pass and he does everything for them. He is a loyal worker and tries to rise through the ranks every year. The royal family of the company now trusts him so much after so many years that they give him $7 million of company money and send him on a mission in an international country. This is where our story truly begins. Yoon now has a wife and he is living a much better life. He is also so proud of himself for working closely with the royal family of the group. The problem is that our poor Yoon is just a fall guy for the family. Basically, they set him to be charged for their crimes. Two men arrive and they tell Yoon that this is his last day among the living. Now that he has been framed, it's time he gets deleted. The two agents take Yoon out in a field and they shoot him in the head, totally cold-blooded. The problem for them is that Yoon does not die, he actually gets reborn. Yoon returns to the year 1987, 30 years before he was assassinated. The catch is that he did not return to his own past, he was reborn as part of the royal family of the Sudian Group. He is now the child of a famous actress, and one of the sons of Jin Yang-cheo, the grandfather of the entire family and company. Yoon is now living as a young Jin Dojin, the grandson of Sudian Group's chairman Jin. One of the first moments Yoon experiences is going to a giant family gathering in a castle. There he meets all the evil and rich family members who are hell-bent on getting the entire company and the money. Yoon also meets Jin Yang-cheo there, the head of the family. Basically, everyone fears him and he is cruel to his children. For some reason, Jin is very lovable and kind to Yoon. Yoon will now have to live in this new life and try to defeat all the evil family members and make a name for himself in this new life. Yoon now has to get used to this new life and try to fit in. He knows most of the family members from his previous life. Most members of the Sudian royal group are evil people. Yoon remembers a woman who is now his aunt in this life. In the previous one, she was this old lady who hooked up with really young dudes and scammed everyone. Even now, when he sees her, he is disgusted. Yoon also has to see how his parents are behaving in this world of super rich people. His new father is pretty scared and does not stand out. His mother, the beautiful actress, is ridiculed by the entire family. They even have her serve the drinks during the family event. Yoon really likes this woman. He just met her recently, but she is really kind and loving to him. She is really someone he can call his mother. He does not want others to abuse her. Yoon gets into some trouble during the event and makes it clear that nobody will mess with his family. This leads to him being put inside a meeting room with his new grandfather Jin and many political and powerful figures. Yoon is now in the meeting room and he is sitting right next to a giant bookshelf. His grandfather is running the meeting and he wants to see if his young grandson can keep up with the adults and stay quiet. Usually most children would be bored out of their minds listening to this, but since Yoon is a 30-year-old in a child's body, he is interested. Also, he has to find a way to take power in this company. The problem is that in the original timeline in the boy he is now reborn and never makes it far in the family. Is not that relevant. Yoon is now able to change that since he can present himself as a genius to his grandfather Jin. The meeting begins and it seems that powerful political figures are there. 3 of them are potential presidents of the entire country. Jin is talking with them about the military future of the state and what is next for the company. Yoon is very careful and listens to all their comments. He wants to understand and know their plans. It seems that the Sudian Group is involved in much more serious things than he imagined. Also, there are 2 high-up members of the group in the meeting, but there is something interesting about them. Yoon recognizes them as the 2 chairmen who set him up in the previous life to take that fall. After a few hours, the meeting is done and Yoon is left alone with his grandfather Jin. Jin is impressed that Yoon can stand still for so long and not act like a child. Yoon then decides to tell his grandfather that he will no longer be silent and that he will protect his mother and father, even if he has to fight his own family. This makes the grandfather hug him, and then Yoon drops a nugget of wisdom. He tells his grandfather that he should be friends with all 3 presidential candidates that were in this meeting. That way, no matter which one of them wins, he will have a very important connection. Jin is totally impressed by this. He cannot believe that a child is giving him such great advice. Yoon, on the other hand, is happy since now he can begin his plan of winning over the old man and become his favorite grandson. Some time passes and Yoon is getting used to his new life. He has to win over his new grandfather, but it's going to be difficult. There is a lot of moving places. Especially in the year 1987, this is a time of great political changes in the country. Jin, the chairman of Suning Group, is now directly involved with the three presidential candidates. It seems that he listened to his young grandson. Yoon is ready for his grandfather to come and visit him any day now. While Yoon is getting back from school, his grandfather Jin goes to talk with his mother. It seems that Jin wants his grandson to be much more involved in the company even if he is young. His mother is against the idea. She wants him to have a normal life far away from that world. This angers Jin as he is offering the entire family a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and she is rejecting him. At that moment, just before Jin starts to scream at her, young Yoon arrives at the house. Jin right away changes his tone and hugs his grandson. Yoon realizes that his mother is very protective of him. He overheard the entire conversation so he knows what is going on. Yoon then tells his grandfather that he wants to be a chairman just like him when he grows up. This surprises his mother and makes Jin really happy. Later they go talk in Yoon's room and Jin asks for advice once more. He talks about the three candidates for president and how two of them have started to team up against the third. Yoon then once more gives him some shocking advice. This old man is really asking a literal child for social and business advice. Yoon remembers his past and wants to find out about his parents from his former life. He wants to see if there is another version of him living in this timeline. When he meets his old mother and father, he gets emotional. While he is living a new life with new parents, he does miss them. He also finds out that in this timeline there is not another Yoon, but his parents have a daughter called Hyunji. Now, that is a real mind break. Yoon is right about the political changes happening in the country, and the advice he gives to his grandfather Jin proves to be crucial in his fight for dominance. Now Jin really thinks that Yoon is a real wizard and Yoon is that much closer to getting rich and helping his new family. Yoon is worried about the timeline being changed. He has already started to change things. In the original timeline, Jin Dojin, the body that Yoon is now using, was never close to his grandfather and he died when he was 20 years old. It was a horrible car crash. Yoon does not have any other memories about that incident, but he knows he has to prevent his own death. He also has to stop Jin, the grandfather, from dying in 10 years. In the original timeline, the old man is in the hospital and falls apart in just a decade. Yoon also realizes that since he has been reborn, his parents now have a daughter instead of a son. This means that his ability to predict the future might not work since it's clear the timeline is totally different. Still, he has to use the information he has from his previous life to get ahead in this life. Yoon is invited to a meeting with his grandfather Jin. This is a reward for helping his grandfather. Yoon is super hyped about this and wants to secure some really insane things for himself and his family. He wants them to have as much money as possible before the old man dies. Yoon has to act like a child even if he's a 40-year-old man inside of a child's body. That is one of the reasons he has no friends at the moment when his grandfather asks. Like, how is he supposed to hang out with literal children? His brain would turn into a hamburger. Jin is very grateful for his grandson's help and he decides to reward him. He tells him to pick anything he wants and that his wish will be granted. In that moment, Yoon has to be smart and use this opportunity. He decides to tell his grandfather that he wants a piece of land. He tells him about a pasture that he wants, and it would be perfect if his grandfather could build it. Jin agrees to this and tells Yoon to pick a place from a map and Jin will buy that land for him. Yoon looks at the map for a while and picks out a place. This is a place that has a lot of poor people around it. It's not the perfect land, but it's cheap. The grandfather agrees and he explains that maybe in 20 or more years that land will be worth a lot of money, so Yoon should appreciate this gift. What Jin does not understand is that Yoon has been playing him. Yoon will not have to sell that land in 20 years. That land literally becomes Bunding City in just 2 years. Yes, that means our boy Yoon just bought an entire ass city for himself. We see a meeting with Choi Seobeng and his sister Suyeon. They are talking with their father Jin, the chairman of the entire company. Both of them are terrified of him, but they also want to gain more power. They try to outsmart the old man, but that does not work at all. Not only that, Jin starts to outsmart them and basically punishes them in the most hilarious ways. Choi Seobeng wanted to have a pretty powerful position and Jin gave him the position of chief prosecutor, but now Choi will become a slave to the company and to Jin. He is basically a puppet who has to do everything Jin wants. Suyeon also tries to fight for her own position, but she gets painfully denied. This man Jin really does not like his kids. Basically, he is only showing any real emotion with his grandson and our boy Yoon. Yoon is having a fantastic year. Basically, Jin bought him that land that was supposed to be turned into a pasture. Jin also not only bought 50,000 acres of land, but he also bought another 30. This is beyond insane since the land is now worth over 140 billion won. Jin cannot believe that his grandson was able to guess that location and earn so much money. All the other family members are now beyond jealous, and Yoon is a literal child with land that is worth more than an entire city. This is all going according to his plan of becoming an even more powerful CEO than Jin. Later that night, Yoon comes back home now and his parents need to have a chat with him. They have never seen that much money and their little boy is now basically a millionaire. Yoon tells his parents that he wants them to have the money and that he is going to help the family with everything they need. The father feels upset and later he talks with his wife. He cannot believe that his little son is such a genius, but he does not want to use him for his money. Yoon realizes that in this life he has some great parents. In the night, Yoon has a talk with his father. He tells his father that he wants to become a chairman of a bigger company. He wants to truly change the world. Yoon also learns that his father always wanted to make movies, so Yoon wants to help out with that. His father is shocked. He has never heard a child talk in this way. In the meantime, we are introduced to the vice chairman called Jin Yongji. He is the second in line of the company and he really hates the old man. He wants to take over the company and he is furious at his own son for not doing more. Yongji is angry that Yoon has been able to earn so much money, and he also realizes that for some reason his father likes Yoon and is helping him and his family out. Yongji cannot allow this and has to always be the first one in line. He has to secure his rule after his father is gone. While that is happening, Yoon is making big moves. He asks his father if he has some friends from college who can help in his business. After a few days, Yoon has a meeting with Oh Sahayan. He is a friend from England who went with his father to college. Oh Sahayan is a representative of Power Shares, and in the original timeline, he will become very rich and build a giant company. Oh Sahayan becomes a very powerful figure, and Yoon wants to use that to his advantage. Oh Sahayan does not really think that Yoon has serious funds since he is a literal child, but soon enough Yoon proves just how capable he is. Oh Sahayan is shocked when he learns how much money Yoon has already earned. He cannot believe it, and he also cannot believe when Yoon presents a business idea to him. Yoon explains to Oh Sahayan how much money he has and what his plans are. Basically, he tries to make it seem like his grandfather Jin was involved and gave him these ideas. Yoon has to create a cover story, otherwise everyone will realize he is some sort of freak with insane business knowledge. Yoon explains his investor plans. He wants to use $10 billion to start his own company and $4 billion to create a movie company. This movie company will be run by his father and he can create at least 10 movies with that money. This will give him a fantastic head start. Oh Sahayan realizes he can earn a lot of money with Yoon, so he accepts the deal. The company is named Fantasy, and they get to work on it and build towards their future investments. Some time passes and Yoon and Oh Sahayan open a business office in New York, Manhattan. But Yoon meets his American crew and they are all shocked he is their boss. A literal child from Korea who speaks perfect English and also started a multi-million-dollar company. The workers all ask Yoon what his first moves are and he comes up with an idea. He wants to invest in a company for computers. This company is owned by Martin Bell. The other workers are shocked by this, but they decide to follow Yoon's orders. Yoon seems to have a brilliant plan to make his company into an even bigger monster that literally prints money. Oh Sahayan explains to Yoon that it's going to be difficult to arrange a meeting with Martin Bell. He does not meet with just anyone. Also, the company that Martin created has just received an investment of $30 million. They will not be looking for other investors. Still, Yoon wants to have a meeting since he is certain he can convince Martin Bell to arrange a business deal. Yoon knows from the original timeline that Martin Bell will become a legend of the business and that his company will continue earning insane amounts of money. Also, Yoon knows a lot about his origins and childhood, so he plans to use this in the meeting. When both Yoon and Oh arrive at the meeting location, they realize that it's a bigger restaurant. Oh is certain that this means Martin will not take their offers seriously at all and that he is just doing this meeting for fun. Yoon and Oh are introduced to Martin Bell. He's a very strange-looking man with glasses. He does not look like a billionaire with a great computer company. At first, Martin thinks that Yoon is just the son of Oh and that he has no idea what is happening. Soon enough, he is shocked to find out that Yoon not only is the boss, but he is very much interested in business. Martin rejects any offer of investment, but soon after Yoon starts to present his plan. Yoon basically sells Martin on a perfect plan where they can help him out and make him even richer than before. Martin Bell is shocked by this random kid giving him financial advice, but soon realizes he can earn a lot more money because of Yoon. After the meeting, Yoon and Oh fly back to Korea. Oh is shocked by Yoon and his management skills. Yoon then plays a prank on Oh and admits that he is actually a 40-year-old man who got reincarnated into a body of a child and now he is a genius. Of course, Oh does not believe him, but still. Everything is moving according to the plan that Yoon created. Even now in this young body, he's going towards his goal of becoming filthy rich very soon. Shin finds out that Oh Sahayan is working with Yoon and that they are investing a lot of money in various companies. This makes Jin furious since he thinks the adults are using his grandson for his money. Little does he know that his grandson is pulling all the strings and starting these projects. In the meantime, we see a meeting between Yoon and Oh. They are trying to come up with the best place to invest. They are even talking about investing in a company called Microsoft, but it's risky. Yoon has to think about his knowledge. While he knows certain things that happen in the timeline, he is not familiar with stocks and how certain companies were doing in certain periods of time. This means he has to be very careful to not waste money on something that will crash and burn. Yoon knows the best tactic. He will invest in movies. He watched a lot of movies and he knows which ones are going to make insane money. Yoon spots a movie and tells Oh that they have to invest in it. Oh is angry at him since he thinks the idea of the movie is too childish and it's too risky. In the end, Yoon is able to convince Oh and they plan to put in an investment. When Oh leaves, we find out that Yoon is about to invest in the Home Alone movie, the Christmas hit that will change the world. Of course, Yoon turns out to be right and his company profits like crazy because they invest in the Home Alone movie. While starts to change his opinion, he realizes that Yoon is a boy genius who tracks money like a hungry tiger. They also invest in Microsoft and continue working with Martin Bell and his corporation. They both make insane money, and this creates even more funds for Yoon and his business. Yoon also decides to help his father who is struggling in the movie business. They created a new movie, but the problem is Home Alone is taking over the theaters in Korea. Yoon gets involved and he creates a special rule that his father's movie has to be shown before Home Alone every time. This will help the movie earn more money. Yoon then starts to plan forward. He wants to gather as many companies as possible until he overtakes his grandfather. He thinks that it would be smart to invest in an automata company called Agent Motors. Yoon then realizes that something has changed in the timeline. While Agent Motors was doing great at this time in the original timeline, now it seems they are losing a lot of money. Yoon is surprised by this and by the bad press the company is getting. He also decides that for the next 3 years, he has to focus on his studies so that he can achieve great results, and his grandfather cares for him even more. His investment company will be making insane amounts of money because they will be investing in movies. This is just going to be free money for Yoon. Days later, Yoon goes to a giant family dinner at his grandfather's mansion. He hopes to find out more about Agent Motors and if his grandfather was involved. Yoon realizes that his grandfather and some of his sons are having a business meeting about Agent Motors. Now Yoon knows his grandfather is somewhat involved and he wants to find out more. Finally, Yoon is left alone with his grandfather Jin and tries to learn what is happening with Agent Motors. His grandfather is happy to share the info, and basically Yoon figures out that he is directly connected with the company losing funds. Yoon wanted to buy the company and now his grandfather has ruined his plans. Later during the family dinner, Yoon realizes that his parents are a bit more protected because of him. When one of the aunts tries to harass his mother, Jin gets involved and basically screams at the lady. Yoon likes that he has been able to give his parents some protection. Still, he sneaks out during the dinner to read some of his grandfather's files about Agent Motors. Yoon finds out that Suning Company is directly involved with the government and they work together to ruin or hype up other companies. Yoon is shocked by this, but right as he is about to learn more, his grandfather Jin arrives. Yoon is scared that his grandfather will now be furious at him since he went inside his private documents. Yoon is frozen in fear as he realizes that his grandfather Jin is not too happy with him snooping around his documents. Yoon has to think fast and somehow create a perfect learning moment. He admits that he read something about Agent Motors this morning and he got really curious, but he does not understand these complex documents. His grandfather smiles and starts to act more relaxed. He praises Yoon for being so curious and interested, but makes him promise to not enter his office alone next time. Yoon comes up with a plan to save Agent Motors and protect them by spreading rumors in the press. Still, he now has to stop the government from working with Suning Company and ruining his future plans. For that to work, he has to create a crisis in the government that will make them not work with Jin anymore. Yoon also talks with Oh and invites him to work at Fantasy full-time to help the company grow even more. He once more uses his grandfather Jin as leverage to convince Oh to join him. Oh just sees free money, so he accepts the offer. Yoon is beyond happy since he knows he's about to get even more rich. The Fantasy company continues to grow and develop. Oh and Yoon is now working together and making even more money. A quick reminder that Yoon is literally not in high school, he is just finishing middle school and already has millions and millions while making more every single day. In the meantime, we see that other members of the royal family are not having a good time and basically they hate that Yoon has occupied Jin so much. Chairman Yeonji is furious at his children for not standing out enough. He wants his son to get into the best college and his daughter should get married right away even if she does not want to. Yeonji is furious that Yoon has changed the entire dynamic of the family and has grown so close to Jin. While that is happening, Yoon is making more bold moves. This time he is connected with a businessman called Choi Jung-kil. This businessman is worth a lot of money. Yoon thinks they have to pull their stocks from the Martin Bell company and start investing with Choi and his work. Yoon knows that Choi Jung-ki will become beyond legendary in the money-making world, so he wants to jump on that trend. Oh, and Yoon continues working towards more deals from their fantasy company. Yoon is a bit frustrated since Oh is not listening to him as he used to. Also, he has been telling him he is too careless with his money. Oh has no idea how big Yoon's plans actually are, so he just does not get the vision. Yoon admits to Oh that very soon he is going to be in charge of the entire money since he will be focused on his studies. Bo is surprised by this since rarely does he hear such young children talking about school and studying. Yoon explains that he wants to study since most children from rich families do not study nor achieve great results in university. Most of them don't even go to university. Yoon will change all that. Later in the day, Yoon has another meeting with his grandfather Jin. They talk about school and Yoon admits he wants to go to law school and he wants to stay in Korea. Jin is surprised by this. At first, he thinks that Yoon wants to become a judge. Yoon then explains that he wants to make his grandfather proud and he wants to achieve crazy results for the family. This makes Jin very happy since he is basically getting the perfect grandson. Everything is going according to Yoon's plan and he has his grandfather spinning around his finger with no problems. He has to make sure to become his favorite family member so that he will get all the protection and help needed for him to achieve his own goals. Yoon also knows that at some point he is going to have to betray his grandfather to take over his empire, but Yoon is ready for that. Jin also tells Yoon that he would love if he become a lawyer who will help the company in the future. This is all part of Yoon's plan. He accepts it with no problems. Some time passed and Yoon became pretty popular, especially with the press. They even come to his house to do a giant interview with him. Yoon presents himself as the perfect grandson who is studying with his grandfather, and that is why his business is doing so great. His parents are also very proud of him since he is making all the right moves. During a giant family dinner, we are introduced to Young Yin Hyung. This is the dude that caused Yoon's death in the original timeline. He is slimy and he wants to be a favorite son of the company. He is also the son of Chairman Yeonji. Hyung is under a lot of pressure and he has to stand out. Hyung and Yoon start talking during the dinner, and basically Yoon realizes that Hyung can be the perfect source of information. Hyung has a horrible poker face and he lies all the time. Yoon can use him to spread misinformation in the family. Also, he plans to get his ultimate revenge for what Hyung did to him by ruining his entire life. Later that night, we see how horrible Hyung really is. He starts to brutally beat up his driver for just making a tiny mistake. Yoon remembers how he was treated in the original timeline and how Hyung tortured him all the time. Yoon stops the beating of the driver and demands that Hyung calm down. Hyung and Yoon have a drink together and talk. Yoon can barely stand talking with Hyung, but he has no choice. He hates that he is now also related to the bastard that ended his life in the original timeline. Yoon plans to ruin Hyung and his entire line very soon. After finishing their conversation, Yoon is taken back to his home by the same driver that Hyung beat up. Yoon decides to take this opportunity to plant a seed of chaos. He basically starts to talk about the driver and all of his experiences. Yoon knows that the driver saw all types of crimes being committed by Hyung and other members of the family. Yoon then came up with the idea that the driver could make insane amounts of money if he sold that information to the press or another interested company. He also knows the secrets of the company and could get his revenge. The driver gets angry since he does not want to seem like a traitor. Yoon then looks at him with crazy eyes and tells him to be silent and not talk back. Yoon decides to rest his eyes while the driver thinks about their conversation. Yoon's revenge has slowly started. More time goes by and a big event hits the Korean economy. Years have gone by since the last time we saw Yoon and his business dealings. Now there is a new player on the market. Hando Group is a giant corporation, but suddenly one of their core buildings fell apart. This caused many of the other corporations to get involved, and they all wanted to buy the Hando Group. This, of course, got on the radar of Jin and his company. It also drew the attention of the Daehyun company. They are one of the biggest competitors, and they often try to ruin Jin's plans and ruin his company. Now, Hando Group is for sale, and basically the two biggest companies in Korea are going to war over it. Both of the companies are ready to pay trillions of won for the company. Jin has a special meeting with his top advisors to find out what is the best price. They have to be very careful since Daehyun company is right after them, and they might buy the Hando Group faster than Jin. Also, Jin has to decide what to do with the Hando Group after he purchases the company. Yoon is there the entire time and he listens to all the plans that his grandfather is making. Yoon is very impressed with the old man. He is a total freak when it comes to making business deals. Yoon is also introduced to Manager Lee. This person is one of the most trusted people in Jin. Jin seems to go with him everywhere and Manager Lee is very involved in his private life. Yoon remembers that guy from his previous life and he was there with Jin until his last moments. Yoon has a meeting with Oh and they agree to get involved with the business of Hando Group. Well, at first is not really into the idea, but Yoon is able to convince him. Yoon has a very interesting plan and he wants to help Jin and his company. Bo is surprised by this, but Yoon explains that this is the best way to reduce cost and actually help his grandfather to get a better deal. Oh goes in front of the reporters and explains that his company is also interested in the Hando Group. They start financial negotiations. Manager Lee later meets with Oh, and he is at first furious at him. It seems that Jin is also angry. That is when Oh explains the entire situation to Manager Lee. Later, Lee tells this info to Jin, and he starts to laugh from the shock. Basically, his grandson Yoon and Oh decided to put the investment of their American company into this deal, and this helped Jin with his purchase. Jin loves his grandson even more now. He is literally helping him get better business deals. In the meantime, Yoon begins his college experience, and he literally starts it off in the most insane way possible. He becomes Mr. Beast of his high school right away by giving away over 200 laptops to other students. They all, of course, think he is a celebrity with insane money. This is also a part of his grand plan. We see a flashback of Yoon talking with his grandfather about giving away those laptops to the students. That entire thing would cost over 3 million won, but Yoon thinks it's a great idea to boost morale with the students. He also explains that this will create a favor and boost sales for his product. His grandfather is not sure that this is the best idea, but Yoon continues to explain. He will give laptops only to students who show up to the opening ceremony. This will create a problem and demand where the students who missed out will now want a new laptop. Yoon is having a great time at university. He is not really focused on friends, but just making more money and creating a perfect life for himself. He gives away those laptops, and that way he creates relationships with students. Not every student accepts the gift. One guy who plans to be a prosecutor in a few years thinks that this is a form of bribery. He and Yoon get into an argument, but Yoon likes him. He thinks he will achieve a lot in his life since he has morals and principles. Yoon also embarrasses a few students and gives them a reality check. Yoon has sensed what life becomes after university, and these college kids have no idea how horrible it gets. Yoon continues to enjoy his time at university, and soon he notices a strange girl. Her name is Minyoung Seo. She is very popular and also comes from a wealthy family. Yoon also figures out that for some reason she did not take one of his laptops that day during the opening ceremony. For that reason, Yoon goes to introduce himself. Minyoung Seo starts to flirt with him right away and admits she is a noob when it comes to computers, so that is why she did not take it. Yoon is surprised by this answer, but he does not like that she is flirting with him. Soon after that, we see that Jin is getting involved with some matchmaking of his own. He has a list of women who are best suited for his grandsons. They have hit that age, and Jin wants to have the final say on who is going to marry Yoon. Also, we see that Minyoung Seo is on that list. Yoon ends up in a college group with Seo, and she continues to flirt with him even if he is not really interested. More economic troubles are starting. Ajin Cars, that automata company that Yoon tried to buy 6 years ago, is now getting brought back again. There are rumors on the news about the company, and Jin is of course interested in buying the company. Yoon now has to prevent his grandfather from buying the company. The economy in the whole region is changing a lot, but so far everything has happened like in the original timeline that Yoon experienced. Now Yoon has a meeting with Oh. They have been working for 6 years now. Oh is very interested in what Yoon has planned. Yoon then explains that they should invest and buy Ajin Cars. This is a shock for Oh. He does not understand why Yoon is so interested in the company all of a sudden. Oh does not get the bigger picture that Yoon is planning. Now, since he is at university, it's time for him to start making big moves to get even richer. Also, he has to put a stop to his grandfather Jin getting all the great investments. Ajin Cars are losing money really fast, and Jin is furious at the market. He realizes that his main competitor has basically done the same plan he had created. He also remembers that 6 years ago he did not buy Ajin Cars, and now he is in big trouble because of it. Also, because they just purchased Hando Group, they are not really ready for another giant purchase. In the meantime, Yu and Oh talk about their plans and how to purchase the company. Basically, at this point, the company is worth in the trillions, and they are going to have to get in early to get the shares and take over. Bo is certain that Yoon can do it, but he has to be careful to not make any mistakes on the way. Soon after, Yoon goes to meet with his grandfather Jin to talk about the purchase. Jin is happy to see his grandson, and he wants to talk about his school life. Right away, Yoon switches topics to Ajin Cars. Jin is curious why his grandson is so interested, but soon the conversation takes a turn. Jin realizes that his grandson Yoon has big plans for that company. Basically, while they talk about the worth, Yoon admits that he plans to buy the company himself. Jin is beyond shocked. He is so surprised that Yoon thinks he is having a heart attack that happens twice. Jin calms down. He wants to listen to his grandson's reasons for buying the company. Yoon tries to bait Jin into admitting how much the company is worth. Jin realizes that Yoon is playing mind games with him and demands to know his opinions about the company's worth. Yoon explains that he would pay 15 trillion won for that company at this moment. Jin thinks that maybe his grandson wants Ajin Cars as a gift, but soon Yoon reveals that he wants to buy it with his own money, and then help his grandfather later in the process. Jin is surprised by this even more as he does not understand how much money his grandson has since he is only in college. They continue to talk, and soon enough it becomes clear that this is not a conversation between a grandson and his grandfather, but this is a battle between two businessmen who are trying to reach a deal for a giant company. Yoon is now playing in the big leagues and he is not holding back. His grandfather is beyond impressed. They continue debating about the prices. Yoon comes up with the idea of him buying 7% of the shares while his grandfather keeps the rest. Then they can switch up the funds if they have to. Basically, for anyone not in a financial administration, they decided to make a deal. At the end of their conversation, Grandpa Jin is a bit curious about how much money does his grandson really has. Jin has known many businessmen, but he has never seen someone like Yoon. Like, he has barely started college and he is already doing investments on this giant scale. Yoon decides to not share this info with his grandfather. He tells him that he must keep some secrets as well. His grandfather gets up and he has a stern face as he approaches Yoon. Yoon is a bit scared. He never knows if his grandfather is pissed or happy. Jin taps his grandson on the shoulders and praises him for growing up and being a real man. Yoon is happy that he was able to win this argument and finally start his journey into building an empire. The federal government gets involved with Ajin Motors and a deal is made. This deal is created so that the company does not get exposed to criminal activity and large-scale takeovers. Jin and his company are able to become one of 3 major owners of Ajin Motors now. Yoon is also involved since he has 2.7 trillion won invested in the company. And Yoon has a meeting with Jin where they talk about all the details and how to move forward. Yoon comes up with an idea of using some of the money to help the workers in their retirement, but Jin comes up with a better financial plan. They also have to clean the money so that it's legal and that the people of Ajin Motors don't get arrested later on for doing something illegal. Yoon realizes that he is getting more and more benefits from his old grandfather, and that they are now allies. Later, Yoon talks with his driver and plans to go on a meeting. Then while driving, they realize that someone is following them. The driver is a bit nervous, but Yoon is confident and calm. A car chase begins. Hopefully, this is not the car crash that ends Yoon's life once more. Those were reporters who were chasing after Yoon and his driver and manager Kim. We see a reporter gathering where they inspect all the family members from the Sujung company. The reporters are very interested in the entire family and their scandals and their plans. They start to go through the entire family tree to find someone who is the most exposed or controversial. Soon they run into Jin Donggi. He is the next in line to take over, and he is the reason chemical companies have started to develop all over the country. One of the female reporters hates this family and she has snarky remarks for all of them. Finally, they reach Yoon, or the guy he is now called. They start to inspect his file, and there is something odd with it. Basically, he is just a regular student who works hard and is involved in business. The shock comes when they realize that he is probably worth over 100 billion won. He has been doing investments for quite some time and he has a lot of money and connections. Also, they realize that he has a special relationship with Jin, the guy in charge of everything. In the meantime, assistant manager Kim and Yoon have lost the reporters. Yoon gives Kim a giant stack of money and tells him about being his own man. While that is happening, Oh has a meeting with some of the other powerful figures in Dojun. Bo has to now do forced negotiations with the chairman of Dojun to join forces and work together on Ajin Motors. It's a pretty fiery and hostile conversation, but Oh is able to hold his own. After the meeting is over, Yoon praises Oh and tells him that since the owner is a chaebol, there is no way he will not accept his offer. I guess chaebol rich guys are famous for doing mergers and wasting money. Why does this story sometimes feel like a financial accounting class? Every chapter is a financial report. Finally, Jin and Yoon talk once more about the deal and the debt relief that their company got. They are super happy with their plan and how it worked out at the end. Jin then explains to Yoon that there are 2 types of people he must trust. Those who are his friends and who are going to work hard like Oh, and people who will sacrifice themselves for Yoon. Yoon is surprised by this, but he wants to learn more from his grandfather. Days later, there is a family wedding where the bride basically tells Yoon that she knows he is well connected to Jin and that they are working together on deals. How that is relevant, we do not know. I guess we will find out in another exciting episode of financial deals that are beyond boring. Yoon talks more with his future sister-in-law. She is now part of the family and she seems to be very interested in him and his money. This one is very smart and she wants to know who are her enemies and who are the people she can use. Yoon is smarter, so he just pretends to be a simple family member who has some money, but he is not important at all. Their conversation ends when her husband arrives and Yoon has to go to the bathroom. The sister-in-law basically thinks that Yoon should not be a problem and will not stand in her way. In the meantime, Yoon thinks that she might cause problems for him later on when she tries to find out more info about his financial status. Moments later, manager Kim arrives and demands to talk with Yoon alone in a car. There they met team leader Shin. He is that guy who was beat up a few chapters ago and he drove Yoon after. Yoon basically told him to expose the entire family if he got enough money. Team leader Shin now explains that he is part of a task force that has been tasked with following and learning all the info about the family members. He is afraid of what might happen to him and he is asking Yoon for help. Yoon decides to join this crew and gain more information through them. This is a perfect plan for him since he can now follow his own family members and spy on them without being directly involved. The deal to get Ajin Motors might be more difficult than expected. It seems that the company Dojin is playing dirty and has published some information in the media about Yoon and his fantasy company. Basically, they have spread news that Yoon is working for Japan and that his won is not his own but from a Japanese company. They'll have to go in front of several hundred reports to clear the rumors and explain the situation. Later, Oh and Yoon start to plan their next move. Basically, they are not in a good position. They have to find a way to clear this problem. Yoon will also have to deal with any major problem alone so that he does not give his grandfather trouble. After talking for a while and coming up with a new plan, Oh and Yoon agree to spend some money on dinner, but it's not their money. It seems that his future sister-in-law has given Yoon a credit card. She wanted to kind of make fun of him for not having enough money, so she gave him the card. Oh yeah, she is about to regret that. Yoon and Oh decide to go on a big dinner to basically just celebrate, but also deal with the fact that they lost. This is the first time that Yoon lost an investment and someone manipulated him. No amount of past life knowledge can save him now. Oh is left alone with a full table of food and he thinks about the situation they are in. While that is happening, Yoon goes to talk with his grandfather Jin. It's late at night and Jin is waiting for his grandson. He is basically in his pajamas and he wants to talk with Yoon. Yoon explains that he lost, but he is not ready to give up and there are other options for him to use. Yoon and Jin start another discussion and Yoon basically has to prove himself that he has what it takes to be a ruthless businessman. Through the conversation, Yoon realizes that if he is not evil, a liar, and ready to do whatever it takes, he will always fail. The people he is fighting against have no morals and he cannot have any as well. As the conversation ends, Yoon mentions that they have to avoid paying taxes and just get free money for their future investments. In that moment, he passes a major test with his grandfather Jin, who is very proud of him. Still, Jin and Yoon come up with a new plan. Yoon can still salvage the situation, and he has to buy parts of Ajin Motors. Jin the next day has a meeting with his people, and they talk about the next moves. Basically, the fantasy company will buy a share of Ajin Motors, and then Jin will combine that company with his own auto company. This will create a much better company overall, and Yoon will help him get there. This also works for Yoon, as he is able to correct a mistake and make sure to win this entire deal. Also, there is something insane that happens during a giant family gathering. Basically, the vice president, who is also Jin's son, starts to talk some mad shit during the dinner. Jin is the chairman, and he has a very low tolerance for anyone being full of themselves. Chairman Jin realizes that his idiot son, who is a vice president, is not even half as smart as his favorite grandson Yoon. For that reason, in front of everyone, Jin banishes the vice president and fires him on the spot. The dude literally starts to cry from the shame. It's very clear that Jin does not care about blood or family, he just cares about money and greed. For that reason, Yoon is the perfect pupil. He is all about that grind and about the business deals. Yang Gai is one of the family members who is also working for Chairman Jin. After the shocking firing of the vice president, Ji now has his job. Jin is also his grandfather and Yang Gai is afraid of taking this position. Jin has to convince him to calm down and begin moving forward on this new career path. Jin realizes that he is 70 years old and he has to still raise and comfort his kids and grandkids. It's getting tiring for him. Still, Jin tells Jai to focus on the potential merger that is about to happen in their company. In the meantime, Yoon has a dinner with the notorious Yang Jun. Yang is very much certain that he knows everything about Yoon and his plans. This, of course, proves to be very wrong since Yoon has been one step ahead this entire time. He starts to roast and humiliate Yang Jun, who is so certain in his position. Yoon even tells him that his position as successor might not be so secure after all. This causes doubt and panic inside of Yang Jun. Yoon feeds info to Yang Jun about a new person getting chosen by Jin, the chairman, for a brand new position. This creates more chaos in the family and also it gives Yoon more leverage. After that, Yoon goes to have a meeting with Oh. They talk about the fantasy company and the deal they are about to make with that motor company. The problem is that the economy is not doing so well, the dollar is becoming more valuable, but it's causing problems in big transactions. Yoon has to now find a way to avoid doing this transaction in dollars. Oh and Yoon also talks about the future of their company. Basically, Oh would like to retire right now, but he wants to help Yoon since he is still young. At this point, Oh is the CEO of the entire company, cause nobody can know that Yoon is the one running the show. He is barely 20 years old. If people found out he is worth trillions of won, they would think he either stole it or his grandfather gave it all to him. Still, Oh makes a promise and deals with Yoon. Basically, he is going to be in charge for the next 5 years until Yoon finishes up his studies. Then after that, Oh wants to retire and Yoon should take over. Yoon is surprised that Oh is so ready to give up so much power, but that is one of the reasons he trusts him so much. Now we follow Donggi, one of the chairmen of Sunyang, who is now very interested in Yoon and what he is doing. Since Sunyang will now merge with Ajin Motors, he wants to meet with the boss of Ajin Motors to find out more info from him. Donggi is very worried that Yoon is becoming too important in the entire company. He tries to get info from the chairman, but it's a very hostile and hateful conversation. It's clear that the chairman hates most of them. After that, Donggi decides to meet up with Yoon's father to see if he can get more info out of him. Basically, he is pretending to be a good brother and that he wants his help. Of course, it's very obvious that he is here just to secure his place in the company. Yoon's father is smart enough to realize what his brother is doing, but still he talks with him about this issue. What none of these idiots in the company seem to understand is that Yoon will not fight with him for inheritance. His plan is to literally swallow the entire company and make it his own. When he is done with his plan, there will no longer be a company to fight over. Donggi tries to find out more info from his brother, but it's not so easy. Of course, Yoon's father is all chilled out and calm. He is running a movie studio that somehow keeps making insane money. He has won at the game of life and his son is literally printing money. They talk about the battle for head chairman and Yoon's father is all relaxed about it and he convinces his brother there are no problems. Before Donggi leaves, he sees the poster for the movie Titanic and makes fun of his brother for not investing in the right stuff. He also promises to buy some tickets if it does not sell well. Oh boy, he has no idea just how well that movie will print money. After their meeting is over, Yoon comes home and he talks to his father. Basically, his father is all in to help him and he wants to know what are his dreams. Yoon's father asks him if he wants to take over the Sunyang company or something else. Yoon explains that this is not his goal. He wants to build an empire that will make Sunyang look like nothing. His goal is way above them. His father is fully supportive and he promises to help him in any way he can in the future. Damn, Yoon's dad is kinda an MVP. There is a giant crisis happening and it's getting much worse by the minute. The US dollar is rising in its value while the won is dropping hard. This means that all giant Korean companies are in a panic since their value is also dropping. Now the main goal is securing the dollar for the exchange financial crisis. Jin is also focused on that. He wants to get as much dollars as possible into his company. This will be a tricky process since the dollar is going up so fast and a lot of companies are breaking their terms. In the middle of all this, Yoon goes to talk with his grandfather Jin about their deal. It seems that the merger is still happening and they have to agree on new terms. Yoon is determined to get a better deal and to put his grandfather in a worse position. They start talking and right away Yoon shows his cards. He wants more money and he has a better position. Jin wants the help of Fantasy Company, which is a US-based company. This means they have dollars and they could be very useful in this time of crisis. For that reason, Yoon wants more money. His grandfather is asking for help and he wants to use it. This shocks his grandfather, but in a positive way. He loves that his grandson is so greedy and wants more and more. They start a hard mind game where they both try to get the best deal while tricking the other person. Yoon now has to use all the things he has learned to win the argument and get a better deal. Jin starts to play a game. He teases his grandson in their conversation while fighting back with new offers. He loves this process and Yoon has to be careful he does not lose the argument. Finally, Yoon starts to counterattack with his own arguments and pushes for a better offer for his company Fantasy. Jin starts to be more fiery and passionate. He even tells his grandson that he loves this. His entire life people around him have been weak and they have just done what was told to them. He has never met someone who is an actual match in terms of being greedy and wanting more. Yoon realizes that his grandfather is getting more fired up and passionate. Jin tells him he is done holding back and that he will do crazy things. Right after Yoon offers a new deal where he would get more shares in his company, Jin rejects it. Bashfully, he threatens Yoon that tomorrow he is going to announce to the world that the merger is done and Yoon will be left with nothing. Yoon does not take this threat seriously at all. Actually, it seems his grandfather has activated his trap card. Yoon explains that because of the value of dollars, Fantasy Company, its company is now making insane amounts of money. The dollar is rising while the value of money in Asian countries is falling down at an alarming rate. This means that Yoon holds the biggest amount of dollars in the entire region. If Jin rejects his offer and breaks up the merger, Yoon will just go to the rival conglomerate groups and offer them the rejected transaction instead, preferably the one Gramps hates the most. This would backfire so badly on Jin. Jin realizes and he is shocked by the position he has gotten himself in. Yoon then goes straight for the kill and calls his grandfather weak, not smart for this threat. This shocks the old man since nobody has ever talked to him this way before. He has met his match finally. Yoon and Jin continue their battle of the minds in the most boring conversation that has been going on for 2 chapters now. It's so amazing watching two dudes talk for like 50 pages about finances. Trilling stuff right here, oh my lord. Basically, Yoon starts to throw truth bombs at Jin and telling him he has lost his power and influence because of this crisis. Jin is shocked by this and gets angry, but then Yoon praises him and tells him that he can still remain in power if he does certain moves. Grandpa Jin is about to get a heart attack during this entire conversation. Dude has been angry, sad, happy, then angry, then happy again. Is just going through all the emotions back to back. Yoon tells his grandfather that this crisis will start and he's going to be in danger as well. He says it in the most light Yagami way possible so that it's extra scary for Jin. Jin went from a badass tactician in this combo to a scared old man who is more confused than in control. Basically, Yoon ends the conversation by offering Jin a deal. He has to raise the stock share and give a better deal to Fantasy, otherwise the deal is done. Jin is left surprised and confused by the conversation, but he is also scared because he knows his grandson is right. After finishing the meeting with Yoon, Jin is left in shock. He cannot believe he has met his match. Throughout the entire conversation, he felt like he was talking to a mirror. It's creepy how ruthless and cruel Yoon is. Jin also starts to get scared because of the words Yoon said to him about the crisis just getting worse and the won losing even more value. Jin, for that reason, calls an emergency meeting. He tells all his chairmen to gather as much money as possible, to sell stocks from foreign companies and to get as many dollars as possible before it all goes to hell. Some of them are shocked as they have never seen Chairman Jin act this way, but of course they listen to him. Manager Lee is especially worried and he wants to know how the talk with Fantasy owner went. Jin tells him the talks went horribly and he is panicked. He's afraid of that chairman and he wants to get his money out. Basically, as Yoon predicts, the stock market totally crashes and the economy of Korea goes downhill. Large companies go bankrupt and Jin is able to protect himself. Yoon now prepares to leave for Europe for a while and just relax. Basically, everything happened as he wanted and he managed to impress his grandfather even more. In the meantime, Jin thinks about his conversation with Yoon and he remembers how insane it was. He also agrees to his terms to give 17% ownership to him and his company. Basically, Yoon won and Jin had to lose. Jin thinks about his grandson and how he has developed into such a thief. He does not say that as a bad thing, but proudly. Yeah, this family is beyond screwed up. Yoon and Oh met up later to talk about new deals. It's a new age since the entire country is in shambles because of the financial crisis. Yoon wants to find a new company to purchase, but in this climate, it's dangerous. He also thinks that his grandfather's company and another rival will be the only companies to survive this whole era. Soon after that, he goes to meet with his grandfather to finalize the deal. The new deal has been made, and it states that 17% of the Sujin Group will unite with the 8 companies of Ajin Motors. This will form a new company that will be owned by Human Fantasy, his own company. Also, this means that Yoon will have to give his grandfather $1 billion to finalize this transaction. This is very necessary since Jin has to get those dollars. Yoon also explains that he just wanted to help his grandfather in this entire situation. They continue talking about the market, and that is when Yoon reveals that he wants to back one of the uncles in the family for Major. He thinks that this will help him and his grandfather buy new land in Seoul. His grandfather is against the idea since Uncle Yoon wants to back to Major as the husband of an aunt, but he is not a part of the family. To Grandpa Jin, that dude is an outsider since he belongs to the Choi family. The Choi family basically married into the Jin family when those two got married. He does not want Yoon supporting that guy for that reason. For Jin, Uncle Choi is an outsider and Jin does not even trust his own daughter who is married to Choi. He does not like this idea at all. That is when Yoon offers an explanation. Basically, if they offer Choi as the major candidate and support him, they can find dirt on him and that way control him. This is the perfect plan to expand their company and grow further. Yoon then explains that he wants to stop Da Construction, a major rival that has a lot of power at the moment. They will also be hunting for any dollar they can find and Yoon does not want them to get any advantage. If they have the major in their pockets, they could stop funds from the government that Da Construction really needs. Jin is shocked by this plan and he realizes that his grandson is gaining more power by the minute. They end the meeting and Yoon goes to meet with Choi and his aunt. Basically, they will need 40 billion won for their major campaign. At that moment, Oh joins the conversation and they start a business deal. In the meantime, Jin thinks about his grandson and how much he has changed. He realizes that at some point his grandson will become too powerful, even for him to deal with. Still, Jin is happy with that. He likes that much more than his kids who just want to please him. Oh, and Yoon talk about the negotiations they had with Choi and Auntie. Basically, the room totally changed when Oh started to talk about money. I guess Choi and Auntie thought they would just get free money without a contract or a fair deal. Now they are in their hands, and also Yoon will take all that info to his grandfather. Jin is shocked by this, and Yoon explains that this is necessary so that they have control over Choi and his major influence. Also wants to know what Yoon's future plans are about growing his business. Yoon then explains that he has a very specific plan for his father. He will buy and create a giant media company for himself, a company that will control movies, music, and the internet in the future. This will make his father one of the most powerful people ever, and Yoon thinks that this is something he deserves since he got no help from his own family. Later, Yoon goes to meet with grandfather Jin and gives him the files on Choi. Now they can begin their master plan, where they will control the mayor of one of the biggest cities in Korea. Jin accepts and tells Yoon that he will push for Choi to become a mayor. Also, Yoon explains that after the major race is over, he plans to create a new business, something very, very powerful and new. We see a bit of Yoon's college life, something we have not seen in like 20 chapters. I swear every time we see this man, he is talking about money like he is Light from Death Note. Bro has no life for real. It is just about the grind and about the money. Yoon is gathering with some college friends to have drinks and a meal. They basically talk about their lives so far and what they plan for their future. Yoon decides to treat all of them to insane meals and a lot of drinks. He has the money to spend, so this is nothing for him. Also, Yoon remembers a time when he did not have any money, and he would come to restaurants like this with other workers. Those were great memories, so he wants to help out these college students. Minyoung Seo shows up, you remember her. The potential love interest we also saw 20 chapters ago. She is the daughter of a judge, and grandfather Jin was looking at her as a potential candidate for Yoon to marry in the future. Well, now, after a long time, she is back in the story, and she is flirting with our boy once more. Girl has no idea that Yoon only gets horny when it's time to talk about company mergers. Minyoung Seo joins the boys for some drinks in the bar. Yoon does not seem to like her at all, while she is determined to get married with him. She is flirting and trying to be all nice. Yoon thinks of everyone as a potential future problem, so he is not very interested in her advances. Also, this entire scene is very boring cause all the students are basically NPCs. They don't matter, and they will never show up again in the future. They also do not know Yoon at all. They have no idea that he is the richest person alive at that entire campus. They just think he is an ordinary student with a bit of extra cash. Also, this Minyoung girl tries to flex her own money status, not having any idea that Yoon has literal billions in his account. After that, we see how Choi Boy is doing. He is feeling angry that Yoon has control over him. Also, that Jin has so much power in his major race. Choi plans to take revenge and fight back. He does not want them holding his leash. What Choi does not seem to understand, Yoon is not holding his leash. He is holding a remote-controlled bomb that can detonate and destroy Choi and his entire dream of being major in seconds. He is now dealing with much more powerful people than himself, so he better be careful. The year 1997 is not a very good year for the economy. Basically, all the giant businesses go under, and there is a horrible financial crisis. The people who were the richest in the past now struggle to find finances to help their companies. Yoon predicted all of this. He knew about the crash that was going to happen, so he was playing it cool. After some time, he and Oh go to meet Lee Jong-kyul, a powerful director of the transition committee. Basically, this man has a lot of influence and even more money. They start a negotiation process with him, and Yoon is doing all sorts of mind games. He is not holding back, and he is being a bit reckless. What starts to pick up that Yoon is acting too arrogant during the meeting and also not giving enough time to think. Lee Jong-kyul, for some reason, accepts their offer and plans to think about the next stops for a while. Yoon is feeling full of himself while Oh is frustrated. Oh thinks that Yoon is getting too big for his pants. He is still too young and not experienced enough to be talking like this. He plans to confront him right after the meeting is over. After the meeting is over, Oh and Yoon have their confrontation. Oh is furious at Yoon for being so greedy and full of himself. Mind you, Oh has no idea what is going to happen in the future. He does not know that Yoon can predict the timeline cause it's his second time living it. For him, it just seems like Yoon is making crazy decisions and doing everything by his gut. This is not how business is done. Oh starts to give Yoon a lecture. He screams at him that he is not his grandfather Jin. He does not have that kind of power. Jin has people working for him. Hundreds of chairmen who would do anything, he says, and he also has unlimited funds. Yoon has a lot of money, sure, but he is not on that level. Basically, Oh is telling him, you are not that guy, pal, you are not that guy. Yoon in that moment snaps out of it and remembers his past life. He remembers what he experienced and how his life ended. In that moment, he realizes that he has been acting full of himself and has lost his way. He thanks Oh and apologizes for his mistakes. The two make peace and continue working together. Oh tells Yoon that he has to be smart about his investments. Yoon then explains that he thinks it would be best if they put a couple of billion won in the gaming industry, especially online games. Oh is very interested in that idea. He has no clue how much money gaming will generate in a few years. Yoon also feels sad. He knows that in 5 years, Oh will retire and will no longer help him. Yoon feels very grateful for everything that Oh has done for him, and he will miss him when he retires. Yoon has another meeting with Jin, and they talk about a new deal. Here we go again. Cannot wait for 15 chapters of them sitting in this same room talking about who has more money, me or you. Yoon and Jin basically have to come to a new deal, and Yoon demands 800 million won for the investment. Jin is surprised by this, but once more he loves it when his grandson is full of greed. Jin knows that he is in a bad situation and that he needs Yoon's help. He also knows that Yoon knows that and that he wants to rinse him of his money. Still, Jin has changed over time, and he realizes that his grandson always helps him, even if the deal is not perfect. Later, Jin and Yoon both have a meeting with a giant board where they talk about his brand new deal. In the meantime, we find out that the judge's daughter, that girl who wants to date Yoon, she has started to spread a rumor that they are already dating. Yoon is of course not showing up to any dates. He has too much work with making money. It's a very special day in the Jin household. Youngjin is getting married. You remember Youngjin? Well, probably not, since he has not been in the story for like 20 chapters. He is the bastard that ended Yoon in the original timeline, and in general, he is a slimeball. Yoon has already put him in his place, but still Youngjin is also Jin's grandson, so his wedding is a big deal. Youngjin does not love his bride at all. Hell, he does not even know her. He is already planning to meet up with a model from a Korean drama that same weekend his honeymoon is happening. On the other hand, his future bride also does not care about him. This is just a business deal for her. She will sit, be quiet, look pretty, and smile. Hopefully that will bring her family, the rich Hong family, some money. While that is happening, Jin has a meeting with the head of the Hong family. They are meeting alone and talking about this marriage situation between their grandkids. Jin is very protective of his family, well, more of his family name and money. He basically tells the old guy that the Hong family will never be part of his company, they will have no influence, and their granddaughter will not be able to even speak to her family. It's a complete cutoff. Jin wants to be secure that the Hong family never tries to ruin his company. He is beyond scary, and he basically threatens the Hong family head. After leaving, we see that the old man is scared of Jin, but he knows that time is running out. Jin is an old man and his grandsons will soon take over. Days later, Jin has a meeting with Yoon's father. Yoon's father has never gotten anything from his father. He has been blacklisted for years. Now, because of Yoon, Jin decides to give his son a medical wing and an entire hospital. This will be his inheritance. Yoon's father remembers what his son did for Jin, and he demands more. He deserves more after everything. Yoon's father wants to protect his son, and he does not want him to get less than the other grandsons. Jin, on the other hand, thinks that his son has no idea what he has just given to him. Jin explains that he should talk with Yoon to truly understand the gift of having that medical facility and all those finances. In the meantime, we see Youngjin on his honeymoon with his wife. We do find out that she is one of the reports that were working on a story around the family. Youngjin told her to find more info about Yoon and to extract some dirt. She, on the other hand, wanted to be detailed, so she found dirt on the entire family. This makes Youngjin furious, and he starts to scream at her and call her horrible names. He did not want her to expose his entire family, so he rips up all the documents and goes to sleep on the plane. While that is happening, Yoon and his father meet and talk about this gift they have received from Grandpa Jin. Basically, Yoon explains to his father that having this will be insane and will bring in a lot of money. All the richest people in the world will try to get medical help from this facility, so they should keep and upgrade it to earn even more money. All the major companies are starting to fall apart. Oh and Yoon has a meeting with Dia Construction, and even they are struggling. Basically, their workers are not getting paid on time, they are working overtime, and also there is little hope that things will get better. Yoon feels bad for all those people, and Oh motivates him to help them. He thinks they should buy the company and invest, give people bonuses, and get it out of the bad situation that it currently is in. Oh and Yoon have a meeting with the chairman called Kang Mujin and some of his helpers. Yoon right away realizes that these rich CEOs are earning more and more money, but now they are using their workers for it. Their workers are barely getting paid, and they make a lot of money fast. One of the slimy chairmen tries to get involved in the meeting, but Oh loses his shit on him. Basically tells him to sit there and not open his mouth. Oh is pissed off on all these rich idiots who have abused their power. He does not want to hear from them. He just wants to talk with the leader. They negotiate prices. Yoon and his fantasy company already own 5% of the stock in Dia Construction. Yoon realizes that all those chairmen are getting pretty nervous that someone will look at their financial reports. Later in the day, Yoon has another meeting with his grandpa Jin. Basically, he tells Jin that he wants to take that entire company as his own and fire all the rich chairmen. He plans to expose their corruption and then take over. Jin is beyond proud of his grandson once more. Yoon and Jin continue their meeting. Basically, Yoon is certain that there is corruption in the construction company, and he knows that all the people in charge are stealing money somehow. Even with a horrible financial crisis, there is no way their workers would not get paid on time. They are for sure using that to make money for their own personal fund. Jin is very impressed with how Yoon figured out all that. Still, he thinks it's risky to gamble with a lot of money to purchase this entire company. Yoon explains that even Jin used to gamble with over 1,000 workers when he would buy their entire company. The two basically have another debate that is just the same. I'm smart. None of you are smart. We have seen a zillion times before. Finally, Jin agrees to this, but first he has to stop the owners of the company from leaving the country. They might consider stealing the money and just jumping ship. Jin calls the head prosecutor of the state to create a situation where they are banned from travel. Yoon is shocked by how much power his grandfather has. His grandfather Jin continues to negotiate, and it's actually scary these dudes are straight up having a fight with their words. I don't even understand half of what they are talking about, but hell yeah, I'm cheering for Jin and Yoon. Yoon and Jin agree on the terms, but Yoon is shocked by the power of his grandfather. This entire time he knew that Jin was powerful, but this is insane. Dude literally called up a state prosecutor, ordered a search warrant, and hired a lethal team of accountants to investigate the papers of the construction company. Jin tells Yoon that he has money, but not much else, while Jin has money, people, materials, and connections. He has the entire thing under his control. Jin also teaches Yoon a lesson about construction companies and their corruption, also what comes when you swallow such a giant company. After that, Yoon, Oh, and the team of accountants go to Dia Construction. We are introduced to the real leader, and even that bro is pretty nervous about the entire situation. Yoon and his agents walk into the offices and they demand to see all of their documents right away. This basically scares all the chairmen cause they know they are about to get exposed. The accountants get down to business and start searching through all the documents and financial statements the company has. Yoon is confident that they will find some dirt and find it fast. Oh is also just chilling and waiting for them to find it. Soon enough, they find enough data to use against the leaders. Yoon calls Jin right away, and Jin then calls the prosecutor to start the arrest process. Life is easy when you are rich. Just call your powerful government agent and he fixes all your problems. Yoon, Oh, and the agents walk into the office of the boss. He is raging. He cannot believe what they just did. He tries to get out of the situation, but it's already too late. Jin has made the call and things have started to happen fast. Yoon has won once more, and now this is his company. In the meantime, Jin brags to his chairman about his success and about the fantasy company being a giant help. The fantasy company is now officially a titan of the industry since they just keep buying more and more companies. Manager Lee finally realizes that the monster behind the fantasy company is none other than Jin's grandson Yoon. Manager Lee starts to connect the puzzle pieces. He realizes everything that has been happening over the years and how much Jin has been involved with the fantasy company. Also, Jin seems to be preparing his inheritance, but it has suspicious activities. Manager Lee realizes in that moment that Jin plans to leave everything he has not to his sons or daughters, but to his grandson. Manager Lee is now sweating, and it's unclear if he is going to start causing problems in the future. While that is happening, we see that the real CEO of the construction company is now being interrogated by the prosecution. Oh, and Yoon is also there, and he is sweating bullets. Bro is nervous as he realizes he is in massive trouble. Basically, they force him to admit his crimes and to give up his power. The dude has no choice but to give up. After that is done, Yoon has a meeting with his grandpa Jin. They talk about the current situation. Yoon feels very sorry for all the workers who have been cheated out of having money, and some of them have even started to be hungry since they cannot afford food. Jin has a very different perspective on this. He knows that the workers have to be well paid not because he cares for them, but because they can cause problems later on. Yoon and Oh have a meeting with the board of investors and basically get the best price possible for the company. Also, Yoon announces that they plan to buy a bank. After the meeting, Oh was shocked by this. He did not know that Yoon was planning that. Yoon explains that after all their recent transactions, they have to get a bank to help them in their business. Oh once more thinks that Yoon is the spitting image of Jin. They have the same insane methods. While that is happening, one of the sons of Jin has a meeting with a worker that has connections to Yoon in fantasy. Basically, this dude has a giant mouth and he spills all the secrets. He explains that Yoon is in charge of fantasy and that the company is now worth trillions and is growing every day. This shocks the vice chairman since all other companies are losing money and Yoon is for some reason making even more than before. After talking for a while, the vice chairman and his brother decide to talk with their father Jin. They are afraid that he might give power to someone else. They now know about fantasy and that it's run by Yoon. They want him out of the race for the inheritance. Both sons have their own sons, and they want the grandfather to leave as much to them. They start to negotiate with the grandpa Jin about his goals and about his intentions. Basically, both sons are wolves, and they are trying to sniff out what Jin has planned for Yoon and his other grandsons. Jin starts to play mind games, and even if he is older now, he is still in control. He is able to outsmart both of his idiot sons and make them terrified of him. He also explains that he has sent his workers to other companies as Trojan horses so that they can give him information. Basically, through the entire conversation, Grandpa Jin proves to his sons that he is still the one in charge. After the meeting is over, Jin sits tired in his chair and thinks about his life. He is working hard to protect his favorite grandson, but he is getting tired. Soon after, he has a meeting with Yoon and tells him that he is proud of him. Jin is very proud that Yoon built his own empire with hard work and insane amounts of skills. President Kang is the entire leader of that corrupt construction company. Yoon now has to deal with him and his family. Basically, they have been stealing money this entire time, money that was supposed to help their workers. Kang is now trying to make a deal. Basically, he is the corrupt CEO and he will sell the shares to Yoon really cheaply. This would be paid in an entire year of salaries for the workers. Kang knows that he is about to lose everything since the government is coming after him. He knows that they will take that money anyway. Yoon is angry at this entire deal, cause Kang is going to protect his family with it. They will get away clean and free. Later, Yoon and Jin talk once more. Yoon is frustrated. He remembers his past life and how he was the victim of his bosses taking more money and not giving anything away. He wants to punish Kang and his entire bloodline. Jin then explains to his grandson that his problem is justice, is playing the hero and not doing business. Yoon realizes that Jin is right. He cannot let his emotions control his actions, and he has to pick his battles smartly. Some time passes, and we see manager Kim and Yoon on a plane. They are, of course, going to a new business meeting. Yoon is still testing if Kim is loyal to him, and he wants to see what are his thoughts about certain issues of leadership and trust. Yoon really wants manager Kim to prove himself as a loyal worker so that he can count on him in the future. Still, there are new problems on the horizon. It seems that Choi, who is running for mayor of Seoul, has run into some trouble. We learn that through Jin. It seems that Jin had a better candidate this entire time but picked to back Choi because of Yoon. Yoon and Jin enter a meeting, and soon after Choi arrives with his wife, they are both worried and scared about what is going to happen with their major campaign since another powerful politician has entered the race. Choi begs for help from Jin and Yoon. His wife and Jin's daughter also begs her father to help. Jin screams at both of them and calls them weak cowards who are running away the moment there is trouble. Yoon realizes that his grandfather is once again teaching him a lesson. He picked wrong and got himself involved in political issues he did not understand. Jin orders Choi to get busy working with his officers and to try and improve his political run. After they are left alone, Jin and Yoon talk about this political issue and how a smart business person has to deal with it. Basically, Jin already has a better candidate. He controls all of them. It's very important to control all the pawns you have. That way there is a bigger chance you win at the end. Yoon learns another valuable lesson from his old man. Director General Kim is a very powerful figure in the game of politics. Yoon has a meeting with him, and it's going great. Basically, Yoon explains that he never wanted to back another candidate and that he has a very special proposal for Director General Kim. Kim is interested since he knows how much power and influence Yoon has and also his grandfather Jin. Director General Kim is the right-hand man of the other person in the race to become major, so he is being very careful with Yoon. Yoon remembers his past life and his mistakes. He remembers how long it took for him to rise within the company and how fast it all changed. He thought of himself as a right-hand man who was helping the giants of the company, but in the end, he was just a farmhand they could use and delete whenever they wanted. Yoon wants to test Kim and see what he truly thinks. He offers him everything. Well, to be more specific, he offers him 20 billion won, an amount so insane his children will not have to work again. He will give him this money if Kim just tells him one bad word about the major candidate he is working for. Yoon will also test if Kim is truly important because that little mistake should not cost him his job. Kim is now beyond nervous and he does not know how to react. Kim will also be treated as an executive in fantasy company and also he does not have to do it in front of Yoon now. Yoon wants Kim to just make a mistake during a meeting, a mistake that will cost his leader to lose the election. We find General Manager Kim preparing for this meeting. He is already in the office. He keeps thinking about the offer that he got from Yoon. It's a really great offer and it will make sure he is set for life. Kim meets up with the major candidate and his boss. Kim has been working for this man for over a decade. He decides to test the waters. He is not sure if he wants to betray him or not. Kim wants to find out if his boss truly cares for him. Kim asks for a week off. He explains that there is an urgent personal matter and he cannot come into work. The boss gets angry at this. He tells Kim that his personal life does not matter at the moment since the race is getting more heated by the day. He then asks him how he is doing in the polls. It's clear that his boss only cares about becoming the major. After he is left alone, Kim finally makes his decision he realizes that his boss does not care about him at all. He goes to meet with Yoon once more for dinner. There he admits that it's time he changes his life and he will help Yoon with whatever he needs if he keeps his promise. Yoon is a man of his word and he promises Kim everything they agreed on. Yoon also tells Kim to not feel bad since he is not breaking trust or ruining a friendship, he is just ending a business deal. Yoon basically explains that Kim and his boss were never friends, so he should not feel guilty. Oh has a meeting with some journalists and workers for the company. He gives them money and tells them some hot tea about the major race and who is involved. Also at the same time, Kim goes to a giant gathering and there everyone gets drunk. Kim also leaks his info to Oh, who leaks it to the press. This is the part of his agreement where he ruins his boss's plan. A few days go by and the press starts to publish this news. It's a horrible day for the boss and Kim gets into his office with his other workers. Kim puts on an Oscar-winning performance. He's crying, he's shitting his pants, he's losing his mind. He tells his boss that everyone got drunk and he said something wrong in front of the workers. One of them must have leaked it, but he made a mistake. Kim then slaps all three of his closest workers as punishment. He then gets on the ground and begs for forgiveness. Man, this Kim dude is so slick. He got paid, he got the bag, and then he blamed his workers and even slapped them. Kim has now made a mistake, and let's see if his boss is going to forgive him. Basically, the entire election is blown up and Kim has accomplished his mission. Yoon has gotten what he wanted, and now he controls another political candidate that might be very powerful in the future. Jin is very impressed by this. He considers Yoon a great ally, but also a dangerous businessman who is just going to keep rising as time goes on. Jin decides to drive up and have a meeting with Oh and Yoon. He surprises them while they are having a meeting together. All three men sit down and have some tea together. They are all super happy with the results, but Jin has a plan of his own. He is very interested in buying a share from Yoon and getting involved. He basically wants Yoon to give up one of his companies to him. Yoon does not accept this and Jin gets visibly angry. He tells Yoon that he has one day to think about his decision, otherwise they are enemies. Jin is not actually that angry, but he thinks that it might be time to give Yoon a final test to see his skills. Choi calls Yoon to thank him for helping him win the position. The votes are in and Choi has won and is now the major. Yoon is happy to hear that, and now he knows he has control over Choi. Bo tells Yoon that he should reconsider the offer his grandfather gave to him. Oh also expresses that he is a bit angry at Jin. Basically, Jin waited all this time, and now that all the deals are done, he wants full control of the construction company. Yoon, on the other hand, knows his grandfather, and he knows that this is not something he does. Yoon explains to Oh that he's going to meet with his grandfather tonight and once again rejects his offer. Oh is a bit worried about going to war with Jin, but Yoon is chill about it. Yoon goes to talk with Jin and basically they have another mind match. Jin wants control but will allow Yoon to keep 30% of his own control in the company. Also, Jin reveals that he had the chairman from the construction company report to him and basically leak info to him so he has all the cards. Yoon explains that he will fight his grandfather, but he will not be angry. He might not call him a week or so until he recovers his pride, but he will not hold any grudges. Before Yoon leaves, Jin tells him to visit tomorrow morning and they will talk once more. The sons have already started to plot against Jin. They feel that their father plans to give a lot of his fortune to his grandson. Now they have to get involved and cause some problems before that happens. They especially want to get involved since they know their father is getting old and might die any day now. Damn, these sons really do not love their dad at all. Jin and Yoon take a trip to the region of Gunsan. This is the place where the Sunjang group started. They are building a museum there, but Jin wants to take Yoon there before it's done. Yoon realizes that something major is happening. He might get a new title. Jin, on the other hand, starts to talk about his origins and how he started this company with his brother. He also explains that he betrayed his brother because of his greed. Jin wants to know if Yoon would do something like that, if he would betray his family. Before Yoon can answer, a truck hits their car full speed, causing a giant car crash. The story ending here would be so hilarious. After chapters and chapters of financial talk, grandpa and grandson get deleted in a car crash. The end. Hours later, Yoon wakes up in the hospital bed. He is all bruised up and has a bandage on his head. Right away, he wants to know if his grandfather is okay. The hospital staff tell him that he is just fine and that he is just injured a bit. Yoon also learns that 5 people have been involved in the car accident and some of them are in critical condition. Right away, Yoon demands the best service possible for his grandfather, and he is also worried that the press might find out and cause a problem. He rushes over to see his grandfather, and he is super happy when he sees that he is okay. Yoon gets emotional while he has been acting as the good grandson. He has grown to love Jin with all his flaws. Jin is also very grateful for Yoon cause he literally threw himself to protect him from the car crash. We also learn that Manager Lee is talking with the police and trying to cover up the entire incident. He does not want the press to know about it and cause problems for Jin and his company. Soon enough, Manager Lee arrives and he talks with Jin. Jin is happy that Lee is always there and has been helping him for years. We also learn that Manager Lee went to prison for 3 years to protect Jin from legal troubles, and now Jin pays for all his bills and for his kid's future. Dan Lee is really a loyal guy. While Lee is loyal, Jin's sons are far from it. They have started to scheme the moment they learn their father got in the accident. They want to get to him before something else happens. The only thing that matters to them is that they remain in power. Yoon's father is also there, and he is actually worried about Jin and Yoon. He is not just focused on the money side of things. The evil brothers are still planning something, and it's also not clear if one of them was involved in the accident. They start to argue, and they actually throw accusations at each other. Both of them think that the other one caused the accident. While that is happening, Jin and Yoon keep talking in the hospital. They are doing much better, but soon the doctors arrive with some bad news. Turns out that Jin has a brain tumor. At this point, it's small, but they should operate just to be safe. Yoon really feels emotional. He does not want to lose his grandfather. He does remember that in the original timeline, the body that he is currently living in died this year, and that the next year, Jin also died at the age of 78. Yoon is worried that this tumor might cause his grandfather to die. He wants the best medical care possible to make sure that does not happen. In the meantime, Oh has a meeting with one of the aunts in the family. It seems she is loving that her father has gotten in the accident. Damn, maybe she is also involved in this entire plan. Oh has a meeting with this horrible daughter, and she does not care about her father at all. She is already thinking about him dying and what she will gain after it. Ho is angry at her, especially since he is worried about Yoon. After their weird meeting, Oh rushes over to meet with Yoon and visit him. Yoon is also visited by his father, and they talk. Okay, real talk, where is Yoon's mother? That nice lady actress that showed up in the first few chapters, like she has been missing from the story forever. Like, did she get deleted, or what is happening? Yoon's father tells him a bit about his grandfather Jin and how greedy he was in the past and how he basically left his sons with a bunch of his own mess. Yoon knows the truth. He knows that his grandfather is flawed, but he also knows a side of him that none of his sons and daughters have ever seen. Jin and Yoon are still stuck in the hospital, especially now that they know Jin has a tumor. Jin also starts to deal with his business plans right away. He learns from Manager Lee that his sons have already started some drama in case he dies. Soon enough, a chairman of an elite hospital arrives. This is the same hospital where Jin went to a month ago. That hospital did not find any tumors. Jin is now furious and wants to know what happened. Of course, the chairman has no answers for him. He is just scared that Jin will ruin his entire life. Jin wants to know what is going on with his health and how they may solve the issue. In the meantime, Yoon learns a terrible secret and realizes that someone from the family might have been involved in their car crash. It's looking very apparent that his aunt caused the car crash. Still, he does not have clear answers yet. He just knows that he has to protect his grandfather.